have a question from the... Go.
Good afternoon. My name is Puneet Alavalia, and thank you all for being here. And thank you for putting your life on the line for the community and our nation. My first question is a very direct question on an issue which we've been trying to overcome for the last over 1.5 years, which was the case of Simran Singh. He's a young man, barely going to be 21. He was murdered in questionable circumstances. The public prosecutor became the judge and the jury and closed the case, called it an accident. It was an accident. What we are trying to get to it is there's so many things that doesn't match up with the story, and we have basically knocked on, or the family has knocked on so many doors and trying to find a solution to it. There's so many issues which we can go in details later on. But in a case like such, how do we get justice? How are we able to take your help and move this case to an extent where you can look at it from a non-partisan or a way where the family is able to get a closure? And that's a very important issue with the community, because it's gone unsolved for over a year and we have not been able to have any help in that. So could you elaborate on that?
Do you want me to take that one? I have spoken with the victim's mother at length, and I have spoken with Mr. Chawla as well on that particular matter. I have referred that to our civil rights supervisor in the Washington field office, who has assigned an agent to investigate that complaint further. So that's where that stands. More broadly, as I explained to the family, our jurisdiction in civil rights is very narrow. Under the police brutality or color of law arena, what we would have to show, and I know there was some allegation of police misconduct in that case, of prosecutorial misconduct in that case, what we would have to show is that a police officer or a district attorney or somebody who is in law enforcement acted willfully and intentionally to deprive somebody of a civil right, in this case, the decedent. I don't know if the facts can prove that or not, but that's one of the statutes that may be used to address that complaint. The other statute under a hate crime arena that may be used to investigate that is we would have to be able to show that whoever is responsible for that young man's death acted, again, willfully and intentionally to injure him because of his race or his religion or his national origin, and also because he was exercising a constitutional right. So, for example, if he was on his way to a mosque, or if he was attempting to vote, or if he was trying to be a state juror, or, in this case, if he was simply just traveling on a highway and was forcibly killed because of his race or religion or national origin, that may be a hate crime. It may not. I don't know the facts. I have not looked at that investigative file. I can't comment on what may or may not be presented in the facts of that case, but I want the community to know that we have taken that complaint. We have referred it to our Washington field office for review. But again, the statutes, and it's not the FBI's fault, but the statutes that we are authorized to operate under are extremely narrow, and we can only operate, obviously, within the bounds of the law.
Cynthia, let me ask your question another way. With our 56 FBI field offices, it may be good for the community to understand what does that mean, turning it over to the Washington field office from a headquarters perspective.
As Brett said, we have 56 field offices around the country, 56 FBI offices, major offices. There's also smaller offices outside of the larger ones. But how this normally works, if we at headquarters receive a complaint, like I did from the family, what we do is we try to refer that to the appropriate FBI office. So, for example, because the family resides in Virginia, we wanted to give that to the FBI in Northern Virginia, who is physically located in a place where the family can talk to them and engage with them on a person-to-person level instead of over the phone or by email. If she resided in Cleveland, I would refer her to the Cleveland Civil Rights Supervisor, that type of thing. So what we try to do is we are more than willing to take complaints in the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. That is perfectly acceptable. What we then like to do is refer that to the appropriate office for review and for whatever action they deem appropriate, again, under the law.
Yes.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Brother Chawla and Sister Chawla, who always put their enormous efforts to put the things together if there is any problem in the Indian community, or particularly Sikh community. And I thank both of you, Cynthia and Brett, that you took your time and came down here to share your views with us. As Puneet explained, that Simran's case, that had been over a year and he'd been murdered and culprits still at large. Is there any hate crime or discrimination takes place and FBI comes into it? Is there any discrimination also exist in the FBI agents, that sometimes they close their eyes deliberately not to listen to it and not to work on it?
No, sir, I don't believe that agents investigate cases or investigate complaints with any type of discrimination or bias or prejudiced attitude when they first start. No, we do not. We have, especially since 9/11, the FBI has done an incredible job, in my opinion, with addressing complaints against Arab Americans, Sikh Americans, Muslim Americans, or those perceived to be. We investigated, as I'm sure you all know, hundreds and hundreds of complaints immediately after 9/11. I investigated many of those in New York City. We take every hate crime complaint very seriously. We understand that these types of complaints affect not just the victim or the victim's family, but entire communities. They terrorize an entire neighborhood, and we understand that. And we take that responsibility very seriously. And we do not, under any circumstances, approach a complaint with any preconceived notions or preconceived biases or any type of discrimination at the beginning. No, we do not.
There is a perception among the Sikh community, at least, that they do not get a fair shake in terms of prosecutor's verdict or in avoiding penalties to the perpetrator. Recently, a Virginia woman struck and killed a 13-year-old boy as he was biking on the side of a road. She received no jail time by the court. Let's ask the family if they know. Is there any update? Okay. So that is, yes.
To follow up on the question, I understand, to your best, to your knowledge, there is no issue, and as she mentioned very correctly, the community is singled out, not because of the color, but, you know, the way the attire is. I'm a Sikh, but I'm a clean-shaven Sikh. We've seen incidents in Maryland, we've seen incidents in New York, we've seen incidents all over. And specifically coming to Simran's case, when he was taken to the hospital, the police officer there was very, very rude and obnoxious to the mother, because her son has been, he said, can I identify the child? He said, no, you can't. And he had written Pakistan, and I know there's an issue against the Muslim thing because after September 11th, and we understand that. We are part of the American fabric, we understand. But at the same time, there have not been on one issue, in fact, I'll have it to the attorney here, they've been not on one issue where the police obstructed the family from even seeing the child. And then, for example, there were supposed to be x-rays, which were supposed to be taken and were not taken. And in our culture, we basically cremate the body. We just don't bury the body. That has been a disconcern to us. And I'd like to pass it on to our dear friend, the attorney, who can further elaborate on the questions which I have.
So may I just address that?
Yes, please.
That one point? It would be hypocritical of me to say that the FBI takes our responsibility seriously to investigate police officers' misconduct. If there is ever a complaint against an FBI agent for misconduct or for not handling something appropriately, and which I think plays into your question, sir, we would highly encourage you to report that, whether that's to the FBI headquarters or to that particular field office in Richmond or Norfolk or Baltimore, wherever the alleged misconduct may have occurred by an FBI agent. It'd be hypocritical of me not to say that to you. So if there is any allegation that perhaps an FBI agent did not respond to something as you feel was appropriate, we would encourage you to report that. And in the same token, if a police officer does not treat you with respect and with courtesy, as I think we would all agree police officers